While kingdoms collapsed and revolutions destroyed empires, a handful of elite families discovered a legal loophole that protected their wealth for centuries. Stop. I mean, look at the map of Europe. It's a lie. What if the world's most terrifying conquerors never even drew a single sword? Forget blood and iron, right? The Byzantines had something much deadlier: gold, incense, and a legal loophole that turned every king in Europe into a puppet. Welcome, time travelers, to the era of the ghost sovereigns. While the rest of the world was stabbing each other in the mud for a few acres of dirt, Constantinople was playing a 5D chess game. I mean, it makes modern geopolitics look like a playground scrap. They didn't invade your borders. They invaded your mind. They actually convinced every king from London to the Black Sea. And they were just, wow, middle management. But here's the terrifying part. How do you trick an entire continent into surrendering their soul without them even noticing? It starts with the biggest gaslight in human history. The Roman Empire never actually fell. It just went invisible. And if you think this is just old history, wait until you see the weapon it used to erase your sovereignty. They didn't want your land. They wanted your existence. Are you ready to see the fine print that still haunts the world today? Let's dive in. Time travelers. Your history book? It lied to you. Take a look at this map. You see that shrinking purpled, a dying empire? Well, that's just the cover story. They want you obsessed with the walls, so you don't see the strings. You see, while the world saw a city under siege, Constantinople was actually running a massive, global psychological operation. They called it the hierarchy of states. But me? I called it a medieval matrix. You think those bloodthirsty barbarian kings were a threat? I mean, to a Byzantine emperor. They were just middle management. The Romans figured out a secret: modern governments are still chasing you don't need to conquer a man's land if you can colonize his mind. They built a cosmic ladder where the emperor sat right at the top as the universal fodder. When a foreign king got a letter, he didn't just get mail, right? No, he got a diplomatic virus. A Frankish king is called a brother. A Slavic prince is his son. Sounds polite, right? Wrong. It was a legal threat. The second they accepted that title, they traded their sovereignty for a seat at the kids' table. The genius of it? It was subtle. I mean, no taxes, no forced labor. Just silk, gold trinkets, and titles. These kings went home feeling like gods, totally unaware they just become the emperor's unpaid border guards. They weren't fighting room anymore. They were fighting room's enemies, just to stay civilized. It was, the world's most sophisticated shell game. Look, words and silk won't stop a Viking axe forever. To truly own a killer, you need something more than a fancy ladder. You need the secret. Hidden deep inside a great palace was a piece of high-tech psychological warfare so terrifying, visitors thought it was actual black magic. And when the emperor finally flicked the switch, even the hardest warriors on earth fell to their knees in pure, liquid terror. Forget everything you know about war. See, the Byzantines didn't actually need to conquer you, they just hired you into their corporate machine. They called it the family of kings. But in reality, well, it was a gilded trap. Imagine this. You're a warlord, right? You've clawed your way through blood and mud to build a kingdom. Then, suddenly, an envoy arrives from Constantinople. No threats, no armies, just a shimmering silk robe, a title, and more gold than your entire kingdom's tax revenue. He offers a deal. He says the emperor wants to call you his son. Sounds like a flex, right? Time travelers. This is the exact moment the trap snaps shut. You think you're getting a seat at the table? I mean, in the cold world of Byzantine law, you just signed your soul over to a middle manager position. By accepting that son title, you weren't an independent king anymore, you were a subordinate employee. And if you agreed to be baptized, game over. The emperor became your godfather. In the medieval mind, he didn't just own your title, he owned your soul and your entire bloodline. Forever. They weren't just giving away trinkets. They were spreading a legal virus, rewriting the world map with ink and EGO. But here's the terrifying part. This legal wizardry had a breaking point. There was a hidden price for that goal. A price so dark, it led to the most brutal betrayal in history. And it all started with one single, missing piece of jewelry. Do you know what it was? Greetings, time travelers. Imagine a weapon that doesn't draw blood. It steals your entire reality. This is the Byzantine Loophole. It's a 4-step psychological masterclass in how to dismantle a kingdom from the inside out. Without firing a single arrow. Phase 1. The golden bait. Think this gold is a gift? Well, you run. It's a heroin needle. Byzantium flood rival kings with wealth so massive they couldn't even fathom it. But here's the catch: once that king built his palaces and paid his army with imperial gold, he was hooked. The moment he says no to Constantinople, the money stops. The army revolts. He didn't just get a gift, you see. He got a leash. Wheat gold can be stolen, right? For per grip. They need phase 2. The spiritual snare. They didn't just send treasure. They sent salvation. By converting a pagan king to Christianity, the emperor became his spiritual father. In medieval world, you don't disobey your father, especially when he holds the keys to heaven. It wasn't about saving souls, you know. It was about installing a spiritual firewall that made rabbin a literal sin. Now, here is where it gets truly devious. Phase 3. The bureaucratic bind. The emperor gives the king a fancy title, a trichios. Sounds like a promotion, right? It's a golden cage. Suddenly, as sovereign king as just a mid-level manager in the Byzantine corporate ladder. He has to follow their rules, wear their clothes, and speak their language. He's no longer a lion. He's a pet. Finally, the puppet strings are tightened. The emperor embeds advisors and bishops into the king's own court. If the king even thinks about betrayal, his own inner circle, the people he trusts most, are already reporting back to Constantinople. He's a king in name only, holding strings for a master 800 miles away. But here's the terrifying part. While the king was busy counting his gold, he missed a single microscopic change in his own bedroom that made his execution inevitable. There was one person, someone he loved more than his own life, who was actually a Byzantine sleeper agent. And what they did next, I mean, it makes the rest of this plan look like a playground game. Ready to see the betrayal that ended in ERA? That trusted advisor. You know, that close friend who whispered in the king's ear. He was actually the final piece of the trap. The king thought he was a partner to Constantinople. But I mean, in reality, he was just a temporary placeholder. Once his usefulness expired, so did his reign. He was a victim of a system designed to swallow nations, without ever firing a single shot. But here is the part that should keep you awake tonight. This isn't just some dusty chapter in a medieval textbook, right? We like to think we live in a world of independent nations and clear borders. But the ghost of the Byzantine Empire is still pulling the strings from the shadows. So, time travelers, the next time you see a modern superpower using aid packages or international treaties to influence a smaller nation, remember, they didn't invent the game. They're just using the Byzantine loophole. The empire didn't fall. Its blueprint just went undercover. The tactics used by the Caesars, the clever legalisms, the debt traps, and the calculated gifts, are still being used in glass boardrooms and quiet embassies today. We are taught that empires end with a bind, with cities burning and thrones being smashed. But the Byzantines knew a much deeper truth. Why destroy a country when you can simply lease its soul? Why occupy a territory with soldiers when you can occupy its economy with support? I mean, if you want to know who really owns a country, don't look at the army on the border. Look at who is sending the gifts. Look at who writes a fine print in the trade dues, and who provides the security that the local leaders just can't live without. The past isn't dead. It's just waiting to be decoded. If you're ready to see the world for what it actually is, smash that subscribe button to keep uncovering the secrets they don't want you to know. The loophole is still active, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Stay curious, time travelers, because the game hasn't changed, only the players.